Thank you, Chairman Crow and Ranking Member Kem. The SBA's resource partners provide entrepreneurs with some wonderful resources and really advance this committee's shared interest in promoting entrepreneurship and small business growth. My office works closely with our local small business development centers and have greatly appreciated their efforts during the pandemic. Just a follow-up question, though, on that for Mr. Rowe. One of the questions we received from our Small Business Development Center, and we're interested in what your answer might be, is that given how the pandemic has really increased the SBDC's profile in our community, they are concerned about what's going to happen after the pandemic when all of a sudden they are very, very well known for this great assistance that they've provided, and wanted to get your thoughts about what resources might be needed going forward.
Thank you, ma'am. Appreciate the question. What we're looking for, and I appreciate the many members who co-signed the letter that Congressman Larson and Mr. Boulderson and Congressman Young initiated. We're looking for an appropriation of $150 million. What that would do is essentially help us not fall off a resource cliff, if you will. We have our regular appropriation and then the various very generous additional appropriation under the CARES Act. We've beefed up staff and resources, and we want to be able to maintain those resources because, frankly, we don't see a diminishing amount of demand. Like the women's business centers, very often we're having to, schedule people several weeks out because there's just so many hours in a day.
Okay. In your testimony, well, another issue we have is we have a very diverse community in the 7th District. About 25% of the people in my district were born outside of this country. And so we are very, very interested in the Community Navigator program and really working on building our capacity to reach out to these diverse communities, many of whom are very entrepreneurial. They've got small businesses, but they may speak a different language. There may be all sorts of different barriers. In your testimony, you mentioned that several SBDCs have already engaged in pilot programs for the Community Navigator program, and was just curious how those efforts are going. Do you see a use for the Community Navigator model at SBA in reaching small businesses in underserved communities like the ones I'm talking about in my district beyond the pandemic?
Well, I think there's obviously a need. That's why we're working on our own on the inclusivity challenge. The simple fact is there are 30 million small businesses, and I don't know how many aspiring entrepreneurs in this country. And it's going to take a massive effort for us to make sure we're hitting everyone. Community Navigators is a great start. We work hard to find the associations and the organizations that we can work with to get out to those communities, and it's a constant effort.
Do any of the other panelists have any thoughts on this? I saw you, Ms. Hodges, nodding on that.
Thank you, Representative Bourdeaux. So many fond thoughts of Georgia. I spent many years there, and we have a very strong women's business center presence in Georgia and a new one that opened in Savannah. And I think about how the Community Navigator program can complement and can also challenge as we think about our program. We know that the Community Navigator Challenge has a tremendous funding instrument attached, $100 million, and really, how can you put a price tag on the health of small business in our economy? However, our experience in working with the Small Business Office of Entrepreneurial Development is that they're themselves somewhat taxed in terms of levels of staff and resources. It's not their fault. This is a situation not by their making or their design. And so in some ways we find it can be somewhat of a competition for resources, for attention, to do the things that, quite frankly, women's business centers have been doing for 3 decades and have been doing extremely well with many fewer resources. If you compare the $30 million ask of women's business centers with a $100 million ask of a brand new, never tested community navigator program, one can ask a lot of questions. That being said, we embrace every opportunity to partner. We canvass every community for every asset, for every opportunity to reach into those communities and serve. And so as soon as the Community Navigator program officially launches, we will embrace it and we will make the most of it as we do every dollar and every resource we've ever gotten.
Good. Thank you so much, and I yield back.